Was Sumerian civilization once part of dreams, myths, and mysterious tales that we often encounter in ancient literature? From the vast expanses of fertile plains to the first mighty cities of the world, Sumer laid the foundation for the development of human civilization. But often, as we delve deeper into their history, we realize that this civilization is not just a part of myth, but also a part of living reality, of groundbreaking innovations and the great endeavors of humanity. Let us embark on a marvelous journey to explore the Sumerian civilization, where creativity, religion, and power forged one of the newest chapters in the history of mankind. Along this path, we will encounter legendary kings, great cities, and wondrous stories of human origins. And with each step, we will sense the power and beauty of a civilization that once enchanted the world, as well as the challenges and upheavals that plunged them into the shadows of oblivion. Welcome to the mystical and surprising world of Sumerian civilization. The ancient Mesopotamian region was one of the earliest places to witness the development of human civilization. From deep history, ancient people began to establish the earliest civilizations along major rivers like the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, where the vibrancy of life led to the flourishing of civilization and culture. Let's explore the journey of ancient Mesopotamia and the development of civilization from there. When it comes to ancient Mesopotamia, understanding the diversity of geography and natural conditions is crucial. How do major rivers like the Euphrates and Tigris play such important roles? These rivers not only provide vital water sources for agriculture, but also create an ideal environment for the development of early civilizations. Ancient Mesopotamia had a rich network of rivers, which served as crucial water sources for agriculture and daily life. Furthermore, ancient Mesopotamia was also an ideal environment for agricultural development. Thanks to the fertility of riverbanks, the land here was rich and fertile, conducive to farming and cultivation. The wealth from agriculture created opportunities and necessary conditions for the development of larger and more complex communities. But it's not just the natural environment that laid the groundwork for the development of civilization. Another equally important factor is cultural and ethnic diversity. Ancient Mesopotamia was a meeting point for many civilizations and cultures, from the Sumerians to the Akkadians and Babylonians. This cultural convergence created a diverse and rich cultural environment, bringing continuous influence and change to the people living here. Civilization developed from the interaction between different cultures and ethnicities, and the role of cultural exchange and interaction in this process cannot be denied. Major cities like Uruk and Ur became centers of economic and cultural development, attracting talented individuals and cultural innovators to live and work. Centers of art, architecture, and education were established, laying a solid foundation for the development of civilization. In the southern Mesopotamian region, between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, lies a land known today as Iraq, or also referred to as the Mesopotamian region. This is considered the place where the Sumerians, one of the earliest peoples in the world, began to form and to develop. The Sumerians laid the foundation for the oldest civilization in human history. However, before the Sumerians existed, there were initial settlements that lived and thrived in this area. The story of the Sumerians begins with primitive agricultural communities who, under the scorching summer sun and the protection of the fertile rivers and marshes, learned to cultivate, raise livestock, and create shelters to live in. Life for the earliest inhabitants of this area was not easy. They faced challenges from nature, from the biting cold of winter to the massive floods of the rainy season. However, through ingenuity and creativity, they found ways to overcome all obstacles, building villages, embankments, and drainage systems to manage and utilize water resources. With population growth and agricultural development, agricultural communities evolved into urban communities, with strong commercial and administrative centers. New techniques in agriculture and animal husbandry improved productivity and created agricultural surpluses, thereby promoting the development of trade and exchange of goods between communities. Additionally, the emergence of artisans and merchants spurred the development of art, and commerce. Artisans created beautiful artistic works from clay and stone, while merchants opened trade routes, connecting agricultural communities with other lands and opening up new economic opportunities. From the early stages of development, the Sumerians progressed further, building large and complex cities with advanced canal systems and urban infrastructure. They expanded arable land by constructing embankments and drainage systems, thereby creating favorable conditions for cultivation and agricultural development. Much of our understanding of Sumer comes from the ruins of a city that later became famous in Sumerian mythology as the homeland of the god Enki, the city of Eridu. In ancient times, Eridu was regarded as a near-mythical place. Archaeologists have determined that Eridu may have been inhabited as early as 8,000 years BCE. During the Cubide period, Eridu was a favorable settlement site. It had fertile land suitable for cultivation and abundant fish resources from the marshes near the bay. At that time, the coastline of this region, now the Persian Gulf, was much deeper inland than it is today. Such a location at the time would have seemed like paradise. Eridu then was still just a small village community with a modest temple dedicated to the god Enki. Excavations at Eridu have revealed that Enki's sanctuary was initially little more than a small mud brick structure measuring less than 8 square meters, with an altar at one end and a pedestal in the center for offerings. In fact, ash and fish bones have been discovered here, possibly part of offerings and rituals dedicated to the deity, as some archaeologists believe. The people of Eridu would participate in communal festivals, likely involving prayers to the deity, along with singing and music. As the settlement grew, both the temple and the village expanded significantly. The temple stood on a platform about 1 meter high. The expansion and height of the temple would continue to increase over many centuries until it transformed into a stepped pyramid structure called a ziggurat. As villages like Eridu developed into prosperous towns, they attracted visitors and traders who came to visit the temple and offered tributes to the god Enki. Many brought items from their villages and towns as offerings to the temple, or to exchange for local goods, such as sheep, barley, or some special pottery from Eridu. An example of international trade in Eridu is copper. It was a useful metal, but not indigenous to the southern Mesopotamian region, and was imported from distant places. A city that endured through millennia until the 4th century BCE, when it was abandoned and buried, until its walls were unearthed by a traveler from Victoria. Those walls once protected the legendary kingdom of the hero king Gilgamesh. The columns were once blessed by the all-powerful goddess Inanna known as Ishtar. The bricks covered in sand and dust are remnants of an ancient city, the first city in the history of civilization, and that city is none other than Uruk. Throughout its history, Uruk has achieved several firsts that every civilization should be grateful for. For instance, it produced the first epic tale, the Epic of Gilgamesh, recounting the adventures of the great king. Uruk is also considered the birthplace of writing, or at least the place where writing truly developed. It is home to monumental stone structures like ziggurats, characteristic pyramid-like temples of the Mesopotamian region. This city of Uruk is a microcosm of the social revolution that propelled our ancestors from loosely organized small farming and hunting-gathering groups to a complex society built on macro-social organization and task specialization. But first, let's explore the location and climate of this city. Two features are closely related to the development of Uruk. Uruk, modern-day Warka, lies about 300 kilometers south of Baghdad and 15 kilometers east of the city of Samawa. This area was once called Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which became the cradle of several civilizations due to its remarkable fertility. The Sumerians, Assyrians, and Babylonians all thrived here at different periods of history. Uruk flourished in the southern Mesopotamian lowlands, with rivers and channels traversing it, where water accumulated to form depressions and marshes in what is also known as the alluvial plain. As one of the hottest places on Earth with temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius, The unpredictable water levels in this marshy land forced its inhabitants to devise irrigation methods, harnessing the advantages of nearby rivers. The climate of Uruk, in all its harsh beauty, shaped the life and culture of its inhabitants. The scorching summers, with prolonged intense heat, posed a significant challenge to daily life. Vegetation had to endure blazing sunlight, while humans had to employ creativity to devise suitable living arrangements. Along the banks of the Euphrates River, water became an invaluable resource, providing irrigation for fertile farmlands. However, it also presented a significant challenge in managing water and regulating floods, especially during the rainy season. Consequently, this area fostered a diverse array of edible plant species. The domestication of cereals and the geographical proximity to the river enabled Uruk to develop into the largest Sumerian settlement, both in terms of population and area, effortlessly. It would be correct to say that Uruk is the first city of Mesopotamia and of the world. It seems to have begun as two separate settlements, Kulaba and Iana, merging into Uruk during the Uruk period to form a town covering 80 hectares. At its height during the early dynastic period, its defensive walls stretched 9.5 kilometers, enclosing an area of 450 hectares and possibly accommodating around 50,000 people. At the heart of the city are two large temple complexes, the Anu Ziggurat, dedicated to the sky god Anu, originally belonging to Kulaba, and the Yana Ziggurat, dedicated to Ishtar, known as the White Temple of Uruk by scholars. Rising to a height of 16 meters on a square base measuring 60 meters. Both complexes reveal a series of successive temple structures from the Uruk period, including the White Temple in the Anu precinct and the limestone and columned temple in the Iana precinct. A characteristic decorative form involves the use of cone mosaics made of clay, with the apex painted and pressed onto a mud-plastered facing of buildings, a technique known as clay cone mosaic. To the northwest of the Iana precinct is the ziggurat, a type of ancient Mesopotamian stepped pyramid temple tower, consisting of multiple successive layers built upon each other with outside staircases and a shrine at the top where priests ruled, designed by Ur-Nammu of Ur during the Ur-Titruta period, late 3rd millennium BCE. Evidence from deep trenches excavated in the Iana precinct has shed light on many developments during the Uruk period. Most importantly among these is undoubtedly the development of writing. The earliest clay tablets appear at the end of the Uruk period. They are simple labels and lists with pictorial signs. And tablets at slightly later levels of the Jamdat Nazir period show the next steps in the development of the cuneiform script of the early dynastic period. The city remained important throughout the 3rd millennium BCE, but its significance gradually diminished in the later part of that period. It continued to exist throughout the next 2 millennia, up to the Parthian period, but only as a small center. Gradually, it depleted the natural resources in the surrounding area and ceased to be a political or commercial powerhouse, prompting people to begin abandoning the area. Besides being one of the earliest urban centers in history, Uruk was also the main driving force behind urbanization and the formation of states during the Uruk period. The Uruk period is divided into 8 phases from the earliest, through prominent phases to the decline phase, based on the extent of excavated ruins and the historical context revealed by artifacts found there. This city had the greatest influence from around 4100 to c. 3000 BCE, when Uruk was the largest urban center and the hub of trade and administration. The exact manner in which Uruk governed its region and how it became the world's first city, as well as how it enforced its authority, remain unclear. This 900-year period witnessed the transition from small agricultural villages to a larger urban center with a full-time bureaucracy, military, and social stratification. Although other settlements coexisted alongside Uruk, they were typically around 10 hectares in size, while Uruk was significantly larger and more complex. The culture of the Uruk period was disseminated by Sumerian traders and pioneers, influencing all surrounding peoples and driving the development of competitive economic and cultural systems. Gradually, Uruk could no longer maintain remote control over colonies like Tel Brak through military force. The city's center comprised Tempata districts, gradually developing into the Ina and Anu districts named after Inanna and Anu. The Anu district was initially called Kulaba, Kularb, or Unkulaba, before merging with the Ina district. Kulaba dates back to the time of Eridu, one of the oldest and most important cities in Sumer. Various explanations exist for the purpose of the temples. However, they are generally believed to symbolize the city's unity, serving both religious and state functions. Records from the Neo-Babylonian period show that the temples functioned as redistribution intermediaries for wealth. The Iana district consisted of several buildings with meeting spaces surrounded by walls separate from the city. In contrast, the Anu district was built on elevated land with a temple atop. Iana was the temple dedicated to Inanna throughout Uruk's history. The rest of the city and the surrounding districts of Iana and Anu included typical courtyard houses grouped by residents' professions. Uruk was meticulously planned with a canal system later described as the Venice of the desert. This canal system spread throughout the city, connecting it to ancient Euphrates riverine trade as well as the agricultural belt around it. The city of Uruk originally lay to the southwest of the ancient Euphrates River, which has since dried up. Today, the archaeological site of Warka lies northeast of the modern Euphrates River. The change in location occurred due to the shifting course of the Euphrates River at various points in history, which may have contributed to the decline of Uruk. The city of Uruk was divided into two districts, the Iana and Anu districts, named respectively after the goddess Inanna and her grandfather, the god Anu. The famous Warka mask, also known as the Lady of Uruk, a stone-carved female face found in Uruk, is considered to resemble Inanna and is likely part of a larger artwork from one of her temples in her district. The Iana district was surrounded by the rest of the city, but it is unclear whether this was for ritual purposes or when constructing the newer Iana district, builders requested a wall for some reason. Scholar Samuel Noah Kramer suggests that Anu, the male god, initially ruled the city until his renowned daughter Inanna came to prominence. At this point, she was granted a separate walled residence in the Iana district, as temples were considered literal residences of the gods on earth, and because Inanna was often depicted as a goddess very fond of her own way, perhaps the walled-off area was simply to provide her with some privacy. Kramer also notes that, although Inanna continued to be a prominent goddess throughout Mesopotamia, eventually merging into Ishtar, female deities were simultaneously declining in power and influence under the reign of Hammurabi of Babylon, and women were experiencing a diminishing role in power. In this case, perhaps the Iana district was surrounded to restrict access by male priestly classes. However, like many issues related to the history of Uruk, this theory remains largely speculative. Inanna played a crucial role in the mythological history of Uruk because she was the one who stole the sacred meh from her father Enki at the city of Eridu and brought them to Uruk. According to Kramer, the first to translate cuneiform, meh refers to divine decrees that are the foundation of Sumerian civilization's cultural model. As Eridu was considered by the Sumerians as the first city created by the gods, the transfer of the Mehe to Uruk symbolizes the transfer of power and authority from one city to another. In the tale of Inanna and the god of wisdom, Enki made every effort to retrieve the stolen Mer and bring them back to Eridu, but in vain. Inanna deceived her father, and now Uruk, not Eridu, would hold the power. Eridu was associated with rural life and primitive coastal areas where life sprang forth, but Uruk embodied the new way of life, the new city. We pride ourselves as the most advanced generation in human history, yet most of the knowledge and technology we possess today originated from the ancient world. Among these, the Sumerians contributed innovations without which we would not be where we are today. The Sumerians one of the earliest civilizations in the world, not only created the first writing system, but also left behind legacies in agriculture, architecture, commerce, and culture that still resonate and are taught to future generations. From vast fields teeming with wheat to bustling cities adorned with gleaming architectural marvels, the Sumerians crafted wonders and helped shape the civilization of the world. Around 3500 BCE, the Sumerians discovered the first writing system in human history, known as cuneiform or wedge-shaped script. This invention laid the foundation for the development of Mesopotamian civilization and played a crucial role in recording and transmitting knowledge and information across generations. The term cuneiform, derived from the Latin cunus, meaning wedge-shaped, aptly describes the shape of the characters in this writing system, resembling wedge-shaped pieces of wood used in ancient milling. Cuneiform was inscribed using a stylus, typically made of bronze or wood, to impress markings onto soft clay tablets. Characters were formed by pushing the stylus into the clay, creating impressions resembling wedge shapes. One of the most important documents for understanding cuneiform and the Sumerian language is the lexicon. These tablets record the characters and their corresponding sounds, making it easier to decipher cuneiform texts. Lexical lists also provide deeper insights into the language and culture of the Sumerians. Before the advent of cuneiform, the Sumerians used other forms to record information and knowledge. One early method involved using seals to imprint onto clay tablets. However, this method couldn't represent abstract concepts or write complex documents. Later, the Sumerians developed the proto-cuneiform script, a writing system used to record religious and legal texts. However, proto-cuneiforms could not represent sounds and concepts, only simple words. A unique feature of cuneiform is its sophisticated combination of pictographs. By utilizing pictorial characters, the Sumerians could represent abstract concepts such as humans, animals, or natural phenomena. This facilitated communication and information transmission. Moreover, cuneiform was highly adaptable, allowing its use across various civilizations. Hence, it was widely employed in texts of different civilizations in Mesopotamia, including Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, Elamite, Hatti, Hittite, Assyrian, and Hurrian. Until the late 19th century, cuneiform remained a mystery to humanity. All we knew about it came from copies made from ancient clay tablets. However, in 1857, British archaeologist Henry Rawlinson successfully deciphered a lengthy cuneiform inscription from the Behistun inscription. This was a significant first step in decoding cuneiform. Thanks to the decipherment of cuneiform, we can understand more about the history and culture of humanity. The sulfate sumarks. Cuneiform texts provide us with information about life, religion, law, and many other aspects of ancient civilizations. This has deepened our understanding of the past and the development of humanity. Furthermore, cuneiform is also used in archaeology and the reconstruction of ancient sites. Understanding the meanings of cuneiform characters has enabled us to read and understand ancient clay tablet texts, thereby uncovering important information about the lives of people living thousands of years ago. In mathematics, the Sumerians developed a sophisticated measuring system around 4000 BCE. This advanced system led to the emergence of arithmetic, geometry, and algebra. From around 2600 BCE onwards, the Sumerians inscribed numerous multiplication tables on clay tablets and were able to solve geometric and division problems. The earliest traces of Babylonian numerals also date back to this period. The period from approximately 2700–2300 BCE saw the first appearance of tables, with columns delineating the successive orders of magnitude of the sexagesimal number system. The Sumerians were the first to use a place value number system. There is also evidence from legends that the Sumerians may have used a sliding ruler in astronomical calculations. They were the first to calculate the area of a triangle and the volume of a cylinder. One of the ancient Sumerians' inventions from the 3rd millennium BCE, still applied today, is the sexagesimal system, base 60 numeral system, which is the foundation of our time measurement. such as hours, minutes, and seconds. The Sumerians chose the number 60 because it is easily divisible. Only a few numbers and multiples of 60 are not divisible, and the remainder appeared as a non-repeating decimal, e.g. 103 or Psalm 333, a concept the Sumerians couldn't handle at that time. The land of the Sumerians was conquered by the Akkadians around 2400 BCE, followed by the Amorites, also known as Babylonians, around 1800 BCE. Each ruling power also applied a simple sexagesimal counting system and incorporated it into their respective mathematical fields. The concept of dividing time into 60 units persisted and spread eastward to Persia, India, China, as well as westward to Egypt, Carthage, and Rome. This counting system was further refined after the Chinese discovered the 12-hour astronomical divisions of the stars, a discovery primarily theorized because most people lived by the sun. It was also used in military applications, especially in dividing night watches into equal parts. The Egyptians maintained 3 watches per night, while the Romans had 4 watches. With innovations from Greece and Islam in geometry, it was discovered that 360 was not only used to measure the time of the Earth's ideal orbit, but also as an excellent number to measure circles. This sexagesimal system began to solidify its position in history as it became essential for mathematics and navigation. The Earth was divided into longitude and latitude. Finally, with the appearance of clocks in the 14th century, its circular representation was divided into 4 quadrants. An hour consisted of 60 minutes. Each minute had 60 seconds. Also, thanks to the base 60 system, a circle was divided into 360 degrees. It is entirely accurate to assert that ancient Sumerians were the inventors of mathematics. Like many ancient civilizations, the Sumerians attributed diseases to punishments from the gods, and to cure them, they prayed and made offerings. However, the tools they used to perform rituals were essentially medicines. Physicians were regarded as the most respected and educated class in their civilization. They underwent extensive training, with secrecy closely associated with the temples of healing. Physicians were divided into 2 main types, Asu and Ashipu. Asu practiced therapeutic medicine, including treatment with herbs and surgery. In contrast, Ashipu treated based on supernatural phenomena, such as divination and superstition. According to the Code of Hammurabi, Ashipu were further divided into Beru soothsayers, those who could predict illnesses, and Ushipu, those who used spells to ward off evil spirits and communicate with the gods. Though coexisting during the same period, there seems to be little competition between the 2 types of physicians. Even when the king fell ill, the opinions of both types of physicians would be consulted. While modern scholars sometimes refer to Ashipu as a witch doctor and Asu as a medical doctor, the Sumerians held both in equal regard. There is no indication in ancient texts that one approach was considered more legitimate than the other. In fact, both types of physicians seemed to be equally legitimate. The significant difference between the 2 was that Ashipu relied on incantations and prayers, while Asu dealt directly with oils and herbal remedies. However, both types of physicians accepted supernatural sources of illness, and Asu should not be considered more modern than Ashipu. All illnesses were considered either divine or demonic in origin. Therefore, it was essential for gods and demons to be appeased through proper worship and the wearing of appropriate amulets and charms. Prohibitions had to be acknowledged and respected. Diseases were brought about as a punishment for transgressions against the divine. However, even in the absence of wrongdoing, illnesses could still be caused by demons. Demons could attack when the patient was careless, meaning they did not recognize signs of illness in daily life, or they could attack through sorcerers who could cast spells, allowing demons to invade the body. Additionally, demons could be contagious from one patient to another, so the afflicted were ostracized and kept away. Various gods and demons caused different diseases, and particular attention was paid to omens. including celestial events, dreams, observations like the flickering of a newly lit flame, or the spreading of an oil drop on water, the presence of animals or colors, etc., to determine the cause and prognosis of the illness. They had little significant knowledge of anatomy or physiology, and dissection of humans or animals for scientific purposes wasn't performed. However, they made efforts to study the organs and functions of domesticated animals, such as livestock, to understand the anatomy and workings of each organ, to provide them with knowledge of what could be done to improve their medical practices. Asu and Ashipu often visited patients' homes to provide advice on proper management. They noted important omens along the way and in the sick room, but also paid attention to the patient's condition and symptoms, systematically, from head to toe. Disease states were generally identified very vaguely, and recognition relied mainly on divination, omens, dreams, etc., but also on direct observation. Diseases were monitored daily, and simple prognoses were given. When diagnosing, it was essential to determine accurately which demon caused this disease, and why the demon acted, flies directly affected to the prognoses of the diseases. The main purpose of treatment was to remove the demon, or evil spirit causing the illness, or to appease the angry gods. After determining the cause through divination, rituals such as incantations, spells, or amulets would be worn. If it was due to a demon, the Ashipu would exorcise it. Therapies with herbal medicines would be prescribed with a variety of medications. According to ancient texts found, the main pharmacopoeia of Sumerian physicians was herbs, minerals, and salts. They often ground them and mixed them with water, beer, wine, or honey to help patients swallow them. Moreover, Sumerian physicians also emphasized cleanliness. They always advised patients on personal hygiene, frequent cleaning of living spaces, and never forgot to wash hands before examining patients or performing minor surgeries. Surprisingly advanced for the time, Sumerians knew how to use catheters to address issues related to fluid drainage and urinary tract. A piece of clay was found describing the process of draining excess fluid from the liver by making an incision between the third and fourth ribs. Another piece instructed how to drill the skull to relieve pressure. In Sumerian society, physicians were highly respected. In return, they were highly responsible and ready to be held accountable for negligence. Today, all doctors are familiar with the Hippocratic Oath. Interestingly, the principles in this oath are rooted in the laws and medical practices of the Sumerians. The Sumerians adopted agricultural practices perhaps around 4,500 BCE. In the region, traces of some basic agricultural techniques, including organized irrigation, centralized large-scale cultivation, specialized plowing with the use of oxen, and employing professional labor with overseers are evident. The need for management in agricultural activities led to the development of writing around 3500 BCE. During the early Uruk period, primitive pictographs depict domesticated sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs. They used oxen for heavy labor and donkeys as primary means of transportation, as well as for clothing made from wool or animal hair. Adjacent to the houses were enclosed gardens for growing various crops. Barley and possibly other grains were sown in the fields, and the shaduf, a water-lifting device, was used for irrigation purposes. Plants were also grown in pots or containers. They cultivated barley, lentils, chickpeas, wheat, barley, flax, onions, garlic, spinach, and dates. The Sumerians caught various types of fish, hunted fowl and deer. The Sumerians were one of the first societies to consume beer. Abundant cereal grains were the main ingredients in early beers. They brewed various types of beer from barley, wheat, and mixed grains. Brewing beer was an important task for the Sumerians. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enkidu becomes acquainted with food and beer from Gilgamesh's people. Drink the beer as it is the custom of this land. He drank 7 cups of beer. Then he became merry and sang loudly. Sumerian agriculture relied heavily on irrigation. Irrigation was carried out using shadufs, water-lifting devices, canals, ditches, dugouts, water dams, and reservoirs. The frequent large floods of the Tigris and less frequent ones of the Euphrates rivers necessitated regular maintenance of the canals to dredge silt and replace water columns. stone embankments. The government required citizens to perform labor on the canals, although the wealthy could pay to be exempted from this duty. As known from the Sumerian Farmer's Almanac, after floods, during spring equinox, and Akitu, New Year Festival, farmers would flood their fields from the canals and then drain the water. They would then use oxen to tread the fields and weed, using a hoe to till the soil. After drying, they plowed, harrowed, and furrowed, aerating the soil with a hoe before sowing seeds. They even knew how to attach seed bags to the plow to save labor in sowing seeds. Unfortunately, high water evaporation rates led to increasing salinization of the soil. By the Ur-3 period, people had shifted from barley to barley, a salt-tolerant crop for the main grain. The Sumerians harvested in the spring. A team of 3 people included 1 reaper, 1 binder, and 1 gleaner. Farmers would then use an ox-drawn threshing machine to separate cereal grains from the stalks of wheat, then use a cart to grind the grains. To separate the grains from the husks, they would winnow the mixture to separate the grain and the bran. The religion of the Sumerians, the religion of the earliest civilization with a written language in ancient Mesopotamia, was deeply intertwined with their understanding of nature and social life. Before the emergence of kingship in Sumer, religious authority was effectively held by priests and religious officials. Over time, this role shifted as kings began to exert more influence, although priests continued to hold significant power in Sumerian society. Initially, Sumerian temples were simple structures consisting of a single room, often built on raised platforms. By the later stages of Sumerian civilization, these temples evolved into towering ziggurat structures with a temple on top. According to Sumerian beliefs, the universe originated from primal entities. Initially, Namu, the primeval sea, gave birth to An, heaven, and Kai, earth. Their union produced Enlil, who separated heaven from earth and ruled over the earth. Humans were said to be created by Enki, the son of An and Namu. However, the underworld was believed to be a gloomy realm called Kur, ruled by the goddess Ereshkigal and her consort, the god of death Nergal. Key deities in Sumerian temples included An, the ski god, Enlil, the god of wind and storms, Enki, the god of water and human civilization, Ninhursag, the goddess of earth and fertility, Utu, the sun god and justice, and Nana, the moon god. Additionally, Inanna, the goddess of love, beauty, and war, was widely worshipped throughout Sumer and featured prominently in myths, including her descent into the underworld. The influence of Sumerian religion extended to later Mesopotamian civilizations, with many elements preserved in the mythology and religious practices of the Hurrians, Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, and other Middle Eastern cultures. Scholars have noted similarities between Sumerian stories and later works found in the early sections of the Hebrew Bible. The mythology of the Sumerians was passed down orally through many generations before the invention of writing. The world's first epic, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is a Sumerian myth recorded on clay tablets. Initially, Sumerian cuneiform writing was primarily used for recording information. However, by the late dynastic period, religious literary works became common, such as hymns in temples or as a form of incantation. They were often inscribed with sharp tools onto stone or clay tablets. In the city-states of Sumer, early temples were often tall, small structures with a single chamber. In the early stages of the dynasty, temples evolved into stepped forms and were divided into multiple chambers. By the end of Sumerian civilization, ziggurats became a common temple structure in Mesopotamian religious centers. These temple complexes served as cultural, religious, and political centers until around 2500 BCE, when warrior kings, known as Lugal, emerged. Subsequently, political and military leadership gradually shifted to residence in independent palace complexes. The Sumerians envisioned the universe as a closed dome enveloping a primordial saltwater sea. This dome was considered part of the earth, with the earth's surface and a freshwater sea called Apsu lying beneath. In was the god of the sky, while Kai was the goddess of the earth. Initially, the Sumerians imagined that the underworld was a part of the goddess Kai, but later the concept of the underworld, Kur, gradually took shape. The primordial saltwater sea was called Namu and later became known as Tiamat. The primary information about the Sumerian creation myth comes from the opening section of the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enkidu, and the Netherworld. In this description, Namu, the primordial sea, first gave birth to An-Heaven and Kai to earth, and An-Kai then coupled and gave birth to Enlil, the god of wind, rain, and storms. Enlil separated heaven from earth and ruled over the earth, while An ruled over the sky. The Sumerians worshipped the sky as a multi-tiered dome, often depicted as 3 or 7 layers, covering a flat earth. Each tier of the dome was made of a different precious stone, and each tier had its own set of gods. The planet Venus was Inanna, the goddess of love, sexuality, and war, while the sun was Utu, the god of justice, and the moon was Nana. The souls of mortals after death were believed to descend into Kur, later called Irkalla, a dark underworld lying deep beneath the earth. Kur, described as a shadowy counterpart of life on earth, was ruled by the goddess Ereshkigal. According to Sumerian belief, all souls after death had to go to Kur, regardless of their conduct in life. In Kur, souls had to endure harsh conditions, only able to eat dust, and their relatives had to perform libation rituals into the grave through clay pipes so they could drink. However, there were indications that the goddess Inanna could grant special favors to her devotees. Regarding the entrance to Kur, it was said to be located in the Zagros Mountains to the east, guarded by 7 gates watched over by the god Neti. Ereshkigal's messenger was Namtar, and the Gala, a type of demon living under the earth, were tasked with pulling the souls of the unfortunate down to Kur. They are often mentioned in magical texts, and some texts say they have 7 offspring. Later cultures, such as the Babylonians, referred to this underworld as Irkalla, and during the Akkadian period the role of ruler of the underworld was assigned to Nergal, the god of death. To reconcile this joint rulership, the Akkadians made Nergal the husband of Ereshkigal. Many scholars believe that Sumerian civilization began between circa 4500 and 4000 BCE, but the earliest historical records date back to around 2900 BCE. The Sumerians initially practiced a polytheistic religion, with gods anthropomorphized to represent cosmic forces and earthly elements in their world. The earliest Sumerian literary works from the 3rd millennium BCE identify 4 major gods: An, Enlil, Ninhursag, and Enki. These gods were initially portrayed as sometimes behaving capriciously with each other, but generally seen as cooperating to maintain creative order. By the mid-3rd millennium BCE, Sumerian society was becoming increasingly urbanized. Consequently, Sumerian gods began to lose their original connection with nature and became patron deities of various city-states. Each Sumerian city-state had its specific patron deity who protected the city and safeguarded its interests. Numerous lists naming a large number of Sumerian gods have been found. The hierarchy of their importance and the relationships between the gods have been studied through cuneiform clay tablets. By the end of the 2nd millennium BCE, the Sumerians were conquered by the Akkadians. The Akkadians assimilated their own gods with the Sumerian gods, imparting a Semitic flavor to Sumerian religion. Male deities began to dominate, and the gods lost their original connection with natural phenomena entirely. People began to view the gods as living in a feudal society with a class hierarchy. Powerful gods like Enki and Inanna gradually came to be seen as receiving power through the supreme god Enlil. And Lord of the Heavens, the most important deity in Sumerian worship was An, revered as the supreme god, believed to be the god of the sky, and initially the Lord of the Heavens. Dating back at least 3,000 years BCE, he was originally envisioned as a large bull, a form later separated into a mythological entity known as the Bull of Heaven. His sacred city was Uruk in the southern pastoral region. Later, An's leadership role was either shared or assumed by other deities. However, it was believed that these gods still received Anutu and power, indicating that his esteemed status was maintained throughout. Enlil, god of the atmosphere. Enlil, the god of wind, air, earth, and storms, was the principal deity of Sumerian worship, but was later revered by other civilizations such as the Babylonians and Assyrians. He played a crucial role in the creation myth, separating the father Ain, sky, from the mother We, and earth, thus enabling the earth to be habitable for humankind. His breath was believed to create wind, storms, and hurricanes. Enlil was also credited with causing a great flood to destroy humanity because they were causing too much noise, disturbing his sleep. He was also regarded as the inventor of the mattock, a handheld agricultural tool, and was the patron of agriculture. Enki, creator of humankind. Enki, the god of water, knowledge, craftsmanship, magic, and incantations of the Sumerians, was believed to have created humankind and was also seen as their protector. For example, he warned about the flood caused by Enlil intended to wipe out humanity. He was depicted as a bearded man, wearing a horned cap and a long robe and often ascending Mount Sunrise. He was a highly esteemed deity among the Sumerians. Inanna, Queen of Heaven. Dubbed the Queen of Heaven, Inanna is perhaps the most famous deity in Sumerian worship. The goddess of passion, love, and war, Inanna is closely associated with the planet Venus, while her prominent symbols include the lion and the eight-pointed star. In many famous myths, legends, and hymns widely spread among the Sumerians, such as Inanna's descent, the Hulupu tree, and Inanna and the god of wisdom. Inanna plays a prominent role. Utu, sun god, the sacred deity of the sun and divine justice in Sumerian belief. Utu was the son of the moon god Nandi and the fertility goddess Ningal, as well as the twin brother of the goddess of passion, love, and war, Inanna. He was first written about around 3,500 years BCE and was often depicted as an old man with a long beard, emitting rays of light or as a sun disk. The Code of Hammurabi, 1792-1750 BCE, referred to Utu as Shamash, declaring him as the one who provided laws for humanity. Ninhursag, Mother Goddess. Ikeditzes, associated with fertility, nature, and life on earth. Ninhursag was known as the goddess of the stony ground, Hursag. She held power over the foothills and deserts to create wild animals, with notable mentions of wild donkeys in the western deserts among her offspring. As the mother of animals, she was the mother of all children, often depicted sitting on or near mountains, sometimes with omega-shaped hair, and sometimes wearing a horned headdress or tiered skirt. Another symbol of hers is the deer, both male and female. Nanna, moon and wisdom. God sometimes considered the father of Inanna. Nanna is one of the oldest Sumerian deities, mentioned first in texts around 3,500 years BCE. Some inscriptions refer to Nanna, and his cult was placed at the Great Temple of Ur. Nanna is the father of the sun. Utu, believed to stem from the earliest days of hunting-gathering societies, where the moon was more critical to a community as they traveled at night and indicated the passage of time within the month. The sun only became more crucial when humans settled and engaged in agriculture. Thus, religious beliefs regarding Nanna as one of the most important deities reflected the cultural development of the Sumerians. Ereshkigal is the Sumerian underworld goddess known as Kur. She is Inanna's sister. In later myths, her husband is the god of death, Nergal. The gatekeeper of the underworld is the god Neti. The Sumerians had a process of language and cultural exchange with the Semitic Akkadians in northern Mesopotamia over many generations before being conquered by Sargon of Akkad in 2340 BCE. Sumerian mythology and religious practices quickly merged into Akkadian culture. Many Sumerian gods developed into Akkadian equivalents. Some remained virtually unchanged into the Babylonian and Assyrian periods. For example, the Sumerian god En became the Akkadian Anu, Enki became Ea, The gods Ninurta and Enlil retained their original Sumerian names. In Sumerian society, temples and religious rituals played an extremely important role, deeply influencing their daily lives and civilization. Temples were the center of religious and social life for the Sumerians. They were not only places of worship for the gods, but also the hub of religious rituals, where the community gathered to perform ceremonies, prayers, and sacrifices. Sumerian temples often featured impressive and grand architecture, reflecting the reverence and respect for the gods. Constructed from mud brick, with columns and wooden frames adorned with patterns and images of the deities. Their religious rituals comprised a range of activities and commemorations, from rain prayers and harvest festivals to ceremonies and sacrifices. These rituals were seen as a means to maintain a relationship with the gods and ensure the prosperity of the community. An integral part of these religious rituals were hymns and dances, where the Sumerians expressed reverence and respect for the gods through music and movement. Sacrifice and offerings were significant activities in religious rituals. The Sumerians would often offer various types of food, drinks, and valuable items to demonstrate reverence and respect for the gods. In Sumerian society, the worship of numerous gods and spirits of nature was paramount, as they believed these entities controlled natural phenomena in their daily lives. Religion spurred the development of temples and shrines, where the Sumerians conducted rituals, prayers, and sacrifices to appease the gods and ensure prosperity and protection for the community. In Sumerian society, the priesthood held immense power, not only in religious matters, but also in politics. They often served as leaders of the community, acting as intermediaries between the supernatural and human worlds. Their performance of religious rituals, oversight of ceremonies, and management of land and resources bestowed upon them significant political influence. The intertwining of religion and political power in Sumerian society was profound. Gods were often seen as protectors and patrons of political power, while kings and political leaders were considered sons of the gods, inheriting their power from the divine. Respect and reverence for religion and the gods were integral to maintaining social stability and order. In some cases, Sumerian kings even proclaimed themselves as kings of the gods, asserting their power as part of the divine heritage. Their rule wasn't solely based on political authority, but also on religious legitimacy and the community's reverence for the gods. Although religion and political power played crucial roles in maintaining order and stability in Sumerian society, there were also challenges and conflicts. Power struggles between priests and kings, along with the rise of new dynasties, contributed to the decline of Sumerians and the eventual loss of their civilization. In ancient times, the Sumerians were renowned not only for their economic and political development, but also for their rich cultural and artistic heritage. Their art and culture reflected their wealth and development throughout history. Stone carvings and sculptures were often used to express their culture and religious beliefs. Paintings and drawings on everyday objects also often carried religious and disciplinary themes. Furthermore, the Sumerians were known for developing an extensive network of trade and commerce. Cities like Uruk, Ur, and Nippur became centers of trade and commerce, connecting with neighboring regions through trade routes. Particularly, the Euphrates River played a crucial role in creating a royal route connecting Sumerian cities to the Red Sea and the Mediterranean region. Cities like Ur and Uruk became important commercial hubs, attracting merchants from all over to engage in trade. Products such as silk, pottery, gold, and silver were often exchanged and traded in markets and fairs. Many who believe that thousands of years ago, even before recorded history, there existed extraterrestrial beings, including the Anunnaki species, who came to Earth with the purpose of mining gold. Many archaeologists from around the world view present-day Iraq as the cradle of civilization. According to researchers of ancient aliens, the Anunnaki are believed to have imparted this knowledge to the Sumerians. The civilization of the Sumerians saw remarkable advancements, far surpassing the preceding primitive era, Even modern humans today are still inheriting many legacies of ancient Sumer. Some conspiracy theories even suggest that the Sumerian civilization was aided by extraterrestrial beings. The Anunnaki are a mysterious ancient extraterrestrial race believed to have visited Earth thousands of years ago, possibly preceding recorded history. While much remains uncertain, archaeologists and historians continue to uncover intriguing insights into life in the Tigris and Euphrates River Valley, often referred to as Mesopotamia. During the 19th century, archaeologists excavating the ruins of Nineveh, the capital of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, discovered around 22,000 clay tablets containing written scripts. The translations revealed striking similarities between Hebrew scriptures and Christian texts, with stories such as the Great Flood, Adam and Eve, hinting at their potential origins predating ancient Sumerian civilization and their association with the Anunnaki. Ancient Sumerians worshipped the Anunnaki gods, depicting them as humanoid beings, although followers were forbidden from viewing their true forms. Following the disappearance of the Sumerian people, they were succeeded by the Akkadians and later the Babylonians. Religious beliefs gradually evolved into monotheistic doctrines like Zoroastrianism and Christianity. So what did the Anunnaki actually look like? Their appearance remains unclear and largely speculative. And according to Middle Eastern mythology, the Anunnaki may resemble humans, but often taller in stature. They are described as a shape-shifting species with varying forms and sizes. Some speculated the Anunnaki possessed extraordinary intelligence, likening their intellect to that of humans compared to primates. The Sumerian language is believed to be the language of the Anunnaki, possibly the earliest written language, making it the Proto-Sumerian language. If true, the language most closely related to the Anunnaki would be Hungarian. In pre-modern history, linguists have found several similarities between the Hungarian and Sumerian languages. Hungarians are believed to be a group of Sumerians in exile, with many Hungarian cultural legends relating to Anunnaki mythology. The Mansi and Khanty peoples, along with the Hungarians, belong to the Ugaric language family. Some believe the Mansi are descendants of the Sumerians. Conversely, evidence suggests a relationship between the Sumerian language and Semitic languages, the first to be used in writing the Bible. The Sumerians frequently used Semitic languages during the Akkadian period in Iraq. Today, when we delve into the civilization of Sumer and the Anunnaki, or those who inhabited this region, we often encounter controversial works by author Zecharia Sitchin. In 1976, author Sitchin published his personal translations describing an extraterrestrial race called the Anunnaki, who allegedly visited Earth in search of gold. He proposed a hypothesis suggesting that, in the past, extraterrestrial beings arrived on Earth because their planet required gold to survive. The gold in their planetary atmosphere had depleted, so they came to Earth to find this resource and take it back for storage. But why is gold so important? On Earth, gold is a crucial natural resource with numerous applications. Besides being used as jewelry, gold is utilized in most electronic devices due to its exceptional conductivity. Additionally, gold is easily malleable and ductile, making it ideal for nanotechnology to create superior technological devices for modern convenience. Therefore, for extraterrestrial beings with the ability to travel through space and time, their need for gold surpasses anything else. Gold is also used as an energy source due to its thermoelectric properties, capable of directly converting heat energy into electrical power. It's a clean and efficient energy source. Gold can reflect infrared radiation invisible to the human eye, but it interacts with us through thermal means. Infrared radiation interacts with molecules, causing them to move rapidly, making us feel warmer. With these remarkable properties, gold easily becomes a thin yet effective and extremely durable shield. Furthermore, gold is indestructible. Ancient civilizations have used this material for thousands of years. In their statues and architectural structures, everything was made of gold or gold-plated, and all these artifacts still exist today despite having endured thousands of years of history. Sitchin suggested that the Anunnaki came from another planet in the solar system with an elliptical orbit, completing a cycle every 3,600 years. In inscriptions and writings, the Sumerians mentioned a planet called Nibiru, a planet within the solar system dubbed Planet X by scientists. It's unknown whether this planet is the homeland of the Anunnaki. Returning to the earlier point, minerals and resources on this planet have been depleted, especially gold. Therefore, they came to Earth to find gold and take it back home. According to the ancient astronaut theory, the Anunnaki genetically modified primitive humans to create a powerful workforce to expedite their gold mining efforts, and they created a slave race for this purpose. According to Zecharia Sitchin, Adamu is the first modern human race created by the Anunnaki 450,000 years ago by mixing Anunnaki DNA with primitive human DNA to create a workforce that would do their bidding. According to theorists of ancient astronauts, this is entirely plausible rather than a fabricated story. If one reads the Bible and ancient history closely, one might ask whether Adam and Eve were genetically modified by the Anunnaki. Comparing the similarities between the Hebrew Bible and the Sumerian records, one finds not only similar stories but also linguistic parallels. Could they originate from a common source? One thing we know is that Adam in Hebrew means man. As for Adamu in Sumerian, it refers to the first man who was a slave of the Anunnaki. Is there a connection here or just a coincidence of history? Some African civilizations believe that extraterrestrials visited Earth 10,000 years ago. For example, Zulu legends speak of a time when star people came to mine gold and other resources. These mineral deposits were mined by slaves created by the first people. Particularly, we can see that mineral deposits in southern Africa have been mined for hundreds of thousands of years, even longer, so who mined them? Is this evidence of the existence of the Anunnaki? Does it prove Zecharia Sitchin's theory to be correct? Are the Anunnaki just ancient mythological figures? Or were they actual extraterrestrial beings who visited ancient Earth? In ancient texts, the Anunnaki are often referred to as a group of deities, a name derived from the union of the heavens and the earth. Anu and Ki are interpreted by some as royal bloodline or royal offspring. Some believe that the Anunnaki are the sons and daughters of the heavens and the earth. However, the most controversial hypothesis is the idea that the Anunnaki were the progenitors who created the Mesopotamian civilization, the region of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Middle East. According to this hypothesis, extraterrestrial beings from beyond Earth were the authors of extraordinary innovations from that time, originating from the planet Nibiru, also known as Planet X. In Zecharia Sitchin's book, he argues that the ancient Sumerian civilization was created by the Anunnaki, extraterrestrial beings from beyond Earth, from the planet Nibiru, the 10th planet in our solar system, beyond Neptune. About 450,000 years ago, due to overexploitation, Nibiru's atmosphere was severely damaged. Repairing Nibiru's atmosphere required a large amount of gold. However, Nibiru had run out of gold to support this repair. After surveying neighboring planets, they discovered that Earth was rich in gold resources, so they sent an expeditionary team to Earth and established a base in the Mesopotamian region. Accompanying them to Earth was a slave race called the Yijiji. The Yijiji had low status and were forced to work in the mines for the Anunnaki. These Yijiji endured oppression and hardship, leading to eventual rebellion. These uprisings ultimately failed, and the Anunnaki nearly exterminated the entire Yijiji population. With the collapse of the Yijiji race, the Anunnaki lost their slave workforce. To find a more efficient labor force, Anu, the ruler of Nibiru, decided to have his son Enki create a new slave species through genetic manipulation. As they were initially unfamiliar with creatures on Earth, they conducted numerous experiments. Unfortunately, all ended in failure. Eventually, they succeeded in creating a creature that satisfied them, based on primitive humanoid creatures, namely the primitive Homo sapiens. Over time, the appearance of Homo sapiens gradually resembled those of the beings on Nibiru, and the number of Homo sapiens continued to increase. Some Nibiru women and Homo sapiens bore many mixed-race offspring. The genes of these children were not modified. They were tall, almost equal to the Nibiru people in height, and their intelligence and abilities were almost equal to those of the Nibiru people. In Sumerian literature, this new species was referred to as giants. Subsequently, the giants began to establish their own dynasties. The first king of this dynasty was named Alulim, recorded in the Sumerian king list. The kings were selected elite individuals empowered to carry out the missions of the Anunnaki. They were also a human race with superior genes. The kings and their lineage were trained with advanced education in technology, mathematics, astronomy, etc. However, the records of the Sumerian king list have caused much controversy in the archaeological community because, according to these records, the ancestor Alulim was said to have descended from the sky, and the 8 kings ruled for a total of 240,000 years until the Great Flood occurred. Such an unusually long dynasty and lifespan have led some to wonder whether it is just a myth or fabrication. However, the shocking fact is that after the Great Flood, the lifespan of the kings described in the Sumerian king list shortened, closely resembling the conditions described in many ancient texts. Moreover, some characters in the Sumerian king list have been confirmed by archaeologists, and their reigns have been verified. For example, Gilgamesh around 2600 BC was revealed to be the son of Lugalbanda, and a goddess with extraordinary strength. Although his reign was very short, his story is still widely told in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Furthermore, 16 Sumerian king lists from different periods have been excavated, and the contents of these lists are basically the same, further affirming their authenticity. Therefore, the kings listed at the beginning of the Sumerian king list may indeed have existed for tens of thousands of years. Some may wonder why the kings listed in the Sumerian king list lived for so long. Because these rulers were all descendants of Nibiru. With the departure of the Nibiru people, the number of gods on earth gradually decreased, and their bloodline continued to dilute, gradually becoming the lifespan of ordinary humans. If the Sumerian king list, recorded by the Sumerians, is correct, then it implies that the Great Flood existed. However, to this day, there is still much debate about whether the Great Flood actually occurred because the archaeological community has not found any evidence of such a massive flood. But the interesting thing is that the Great Flood is a common myth among many civilizations around the world, including Greek, Chinese, Maya, and other civilizations. All have legends of the destruction caused by floods appearing at different times. If one day the Great Flood is proven to have actually occurred, then what we consider myths today may no longer be myths. In 1940 BCE, the Elamites invaded Sumer and ravaged its city-states. The prolonged warfare and conflicts with neighboring regions depleted resources and led to the weakening of Sumer's economy and culture. Subsequently, during the Hammurabi dynasty of Babylonia, the Babylonians unified the lands of Mesopotamia, leading to the demise of Sumer. Around 1700 BCE, the Sumerians were assimilated with the Assyrians and Babylonians. Gradually, political and social instability, along with power struggles among leaders and powerful clans, led to the deterioration of the management system and civilian dedication. Social divisions and inequalities created instability and tension, reducing the effectiveness of governance measures and leading to the decline of the Sumerian civilization. Additionally, environmental issues such as droughts, floods, and environmental degradation from resource exploitation contributed to the decline of agriculture and caused instability in the lives of Sumerians. Climate change also negatively impacted agricultural production and posed significant challenges to water supply. Considered the cradle of civilization of the world, the ancient Mesopotamian civilization left behind a treasure trove of valuable innovations for posterity. The Sumerian people used a base 60 counting system, leading to the division of an hour into 60 minutes and a minute into 60 seconds. Thanks to the base 60 system, the circle was divided into 360 degrees. From ancient times, the Sumerians knew how to perform the 4 arithmetic operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and understand fractions, exponents, square roots, and cube roots. They created tables of square roots for easy reference and knew how to solve equations with 3 unknowns. They calculated the areas of various shapes and understood the relationships between the 3 sides of a triangle long before Pythagoras, who lived around 500 BCE, proved it. Wheeled vehicles and carts. In 3000 BCE, the people of Mesopotamia were the first to manufacture a means of transportation using animal power. By around 2000 BCE, wheeled carts were introduced to China. The original carts had 2 or 4 wheels and were drawn by 2 or more horses harnessed side by side, controlled by a driver. The carts were used for transportation, processions, sports events, and even in warfare. The appearance of wheeled vehicles in Mesopotamian civilization is understandable, as many researchers believe that the Mesopotamians were the ones who invented the wheel around 3500 BCE to serve production and transportation activities, sailing ships. Due to the need for trade, the Sumerians realized that travel by land was time-consuming and could not transport large quantities of goods. The Sumerians created a type of square-sailed boat with a tall mast to harness the power of the wind to traverse the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. However, initially, the Sumerians did not know how to adjust the direction of the sail. This left them inconvenienced when the wind direction did not align with their intended course. Plowshares and agricultural breakthroughs. Situated in vast plains between 2 rivers, agriculture remained the fundamental industry of Mesopotamian civilization. The people here made many agricultural innovations, one of which was the plowshare. The first plowshares were made of wood, with a simple design around 6000 BCE. Initially, the implements often became clogged with stones after plowing, necessitating manual clearing. The plowshares also did not work well in areas with thick grass. Over time, Mesopotamian settlers developed more effective plowshares. This invention contributed greatly to agriculture, ensuring settled agricultural lifestyles instead of nomadic ones. As we conclude this deep dive into the history of the Sumerian Empire, we not only recognize their beauty and strength, but also begin to reflect on the lessons we can learn from the past. Can we learn from their creativity and spirit of exploration? Or can we objectively assess the relationship between religion and political power based on what happened to the Sumerian Empire? With all the lessons learned, we cannot forget the lessons of decline. Can we avoid the mistakes they made? Or can we use their experiences to build a better future for humanity? Whether in the fields of art, culture, science, or economics, their legacy still exists and continues to influence our lives today. Let's look forward with gratitude and admiration and let the lessons from the past accompany us on the journey to the future. What do you think of the Sumerian Empire? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to follow our next videos on this mysterious journey through history. Thank you for your attention and listening.